What's up, everyone? All right, well, here we are, finishing up my 30th consecutive green day. Wednesdays have been the new wildcard day. The biggest green days of the week have been Wednesdays, and so locked it up again today. $25,000 in profit, which is pretty crazy. So, as you can see, I'm stationed next to a sewing machine, and one of the things that we've been working on here are making little face masks. And I've got a small toddler size one here, and then these are adult size ones. Of course, none of these have the Warrior logo on them, which is really almost a disservice. But in any case, this has been one of those projects that I think a lot of you folks have probably been working on. So pop on that sewing machine, work on this little guy. This is a nice fabric right here. And I think the biggest takeaway is to be grateful for the profits that I've been making. And to be able to spend a little time doing things like this to help people who are on the front line. Of course, for me, and for many of you guys who are also trading, we really don't have the stress of having to, go into an office. We certainly don't have to go into a high-risk area, which is really nice as well. Okay, there we go. So, being grateful is something that's really important. During the first 4 weeks of working from home during the very beginning of this sort of COVID-19 pandemic, I made about $44,000, and I donated all of that to local organizations here in the Berkshires. Food for Fairview was one project that we did where we were giving money directly to the restaurants in this area in the Berkshires that were closed to pay them to make breakfast, lunches, and dinners for the staff, doctors, nurses, and all the staff at the local hospital right here in town. To be able to make $25,000 in one day, like today, is it's awesome. It's a pretty crazy amount of money. Everything came together today. We had some really nice setups that were straight off the watch list, and so to be able to spend a little bit of time hanging out here, working on this little project and giving back is really nice. And I hope many of you guys are able to find a way that you can give back a little bit in one way or another. That's kind of one of the nice goals of being a trader, to be able to make a little extra money on Wall Street and then pay it forward, whether it's in your local community, whether it's because now you have a little extra time to do some volunteer work. But first you gotta make your own mask, protect yourself, cover yourself, make enough money so you can keep a roof over your head. And then if you can help others too, that's awesome. So I hope you guys enjoy the recap today. An awesome day, and certainly don't want to lose sight of the fact that a lot of people, to make $20 or $25 an hour would be typical, and I made $25,000 in 1 hour trading today. So a pretty awesome day. Questions, comments, leave them down below, and I'll see you guys first thing, as always, tomorrow morning. What's up, everyone? All right, so we're going to do our midday market recap here. And yes, I have just finished counting my money. It took a little while. I'm up $25,218.25 today, which is a phenomenal green day. I mean, really fantastic. Is it the chair? Was it June? Was it everything that just came together? I'm not sure. But what a day. I mean, really, today was a mess. Today was a mess for a lot of reasons. Everything was off to a bad start. I came over here this morning telling myself I needed to be really careful today because yesterday was a close call. And I was actually feeling a little nervous. I was feeling like, man, I just don't want a red day. I mean, no one wants a red day, but I really don't want a red day. I really don't want to end my green streak. And I was thinking, all right, I've really got to take it slow on my first trades this morning and not push my luck. And then I came over, I sat down, I pulled up my OBS to broadcast out for my YouTube and Facebook watch list, and my screen capture, my screen was black, and I was like, "What's going on with this? The screen's black." So usually that's an integrated graphics card issue. So I went and changed the settings, which is what is always fixed in the past. Didn't fix it. So now it's like 10 past 9. I'm supposed to already be streaming. I'm not streaming. I'm in the chat room, and I think I'm broadcasting the chat room. And then I look over, and some people said, "Why is the screen share not up?" And I was like, "What's going on?" So I checked, and I saw it says I'm streaming, but it's not being received. So I turned off the stream. I started it back up again, and then I refreshed my browser, and then I couldn't get logged back in. And I was like, "What is going on?" Then I pull up my Restream, which I use to broadcast out to Facebook and Twitter, and that was down too. And I was like, "This is crazy. How are this many things going wrong at the same time? This is ridiculous. This is really unprecedented." And so that was the point where I was like, "All right, you know what? I'm getting frustrated." And I'm watching the clock, and it's now it's 9:15, and I'm behind the ball, and I'm just feeling really flustered. And so I was like, "All right, well, you know what? This sometimes happens. I'm just going to switch gears. I'm going to do my watch list. I'm going to broadcast to whoever's able to hear me. I'm kind of flying blind here. I can't see my chat feed, but I'm just going to roll with it." So I started this morning basically with the cards stacked against me from the perspective of emotional. Just my fuse was short, and I was frustrated. And that if you trade when you're frustrated, you can make some mistakes. So I was very mindful of that. Now, as I looked at the gap scanner this morning, this is what we did. I said, okay, leading gapper, and I was starting about 10 minutes later than usual, but ARPO. All right. Well, it's $1.02. It's a little on the cheap side. I'm probably not going to be interested in it. Next one down, SIF. Interesting. It's the second leading gapper, and actually by the time the bell was ringing at 9:30, this was our leading gapper. But at 9:25, it only had about 80,000 shares of volume. It was gapping up 60%. It was the leading gapper in the entire market. And in the first 5-minute candle here had, what is this? 2.3 million shares of volume in the first 5 minutes. But pre-market, it only had 80,000 shares. And I was a little nervous on that. Lighter volume stocks, I've been doing really well on higher volume stocks. Lighter volume stocks, sometimes I end up having bigger losses on. I don't time my trades as well, or I'm not anticipating the amount of slippage that I'll get going in or going out. And so anyways, I was a little hesitant on it, but the pre-market chart looked decent. There was an earnings headline. The daily chart, light volume, but I knew that today would be much higher than average, so high relative volume. And so on this one, I decided, all right, well, I'm interested, and what are the levels in play? We've got the pre-market high, which is about 450, so let's just see what it does. Well, right out of the gates, the bell rings, and this thing just rips right up. And initially, I was like, so I was watching SIF. I was also watching SLGG. So I'll put up this other chart here. This is the chart that I have in my other window. So SLGG was on the left. This was a continuation setup from a big move that started yesterday, which you can see here. And so this continuation setup squeezes up to 650, pulls back. So I was watching this one for continuation, and right out of the gates, it also squeezed. And I was feeling conflicted about which one was the obvious stock today. And SLGG, as you can see, was down here, like the fifth leading gapper, also fairly light volume. And so this is what I decided. I said, you know what, guys? I think I need to focus on the leading gapper. I need to focus on the leading gapper in the entire market. That's what's been working well. It's SIF. But I hesitated. And so the bell rings, and it pops up to 65, and then it pops up to 411. And I actually bought right here. This is kind of a funny it doesn't, you can't really see the pullback that was there, but I bought, let's see, where was it? I was in this at $4 and $4, 3,000 shares, exactly. I tried to get in SLGG and my order didn't fill, and then I switched gears and I bought only 3,000 shares. I went with smaller size because I was a little concerned about whether or not this would hold its level. I wasn't totally sure. I did notice that some other students in the room and a couple of our moderators were also dialed in on this one. So I'd see, like, I liked it, but I was just a little nervous. By the way, for those that are curious, if you go to the Warrior Trading website, there's a couple things you can see. Number one, you can see my verified earnings. So like 2020 here, this is my verified earnings for 2020. So from $583 January 1st, 2017 to April 30th, $1.3 million in profit. You scroll down here and this is my April broker statement. So you guys, if you're curious or whatever the case is, you can see where I'm at. And now sometimes people will say, well, okay, Ross, you make money. That's good. I mean, at least we have proof of that. How do your students do? So we're not a broker, as you guys know. So we don't have, by the nature of our business being an educator, we don't have the trading records of all of our students. Now, sometimes students will voluntarily share their profits with us and say that they did really well. But of course, some do and some don't. But we did make the 100K Club, which many of you guys, of course, already know about. And the 100K Club is a badge that you get in the chat room if you've made over $100,000 in verified profits. And so these are a few of the students that have the badge who are also willing to have us do a blog post. And so, of course, not all students who have the badge also wanted a blog post, but and some of these actually aren't 100K students. But you can click on their name and see. So Jess and John, both of these students, John's made over 500,000, Jess has made over 100,000. And so Jess was one of the ones, and John as well, that were both watching SIF. And so, I like to kind of, I build a watch list, and then I like to see what a couple of other successful traders are watching as well. And so when I saw that John and Jess were also watching SIF, I was like, okay, I probably have the right idea by thinking this is a good one to watch. So I'm long with 3,000 shares here, and 10, 15, 20 seconds later, I'm selling and taking profit at 420. Now I took profit quickly because I knew I was in it a little high. I bought the break of the whole dollar, half dollar breakouts. It's a setup that we talk about quite a bit. And so I bought this for the break of the whole dollar. In it for, pops to 420, I'm going to take my profit off the table. Remember that when I'm taking my first trade of the day, my very first trade of the day is the highest risk trade in a lot of ways, because at that point I am break even on the day. And so that's the trade that puts me at risk of potentially hitting my max loss on the day, or just taking a loss and going red on the day. So the first trade has to count, and I always want that first trade to help me build a little bit of a cushion on the morning. And so for that reason, oftentimes on my first trade, I will be pretty quick to take profit off the table. Once I have a cushion, then I'll start getting a little more aggressive. So this popped up here to a high of 425. It then pulled back down here and bounced off of 4. And I was kind of half interested in taking that breakout, but I wasn't totally sure. So I'm going to switch this to a 1-minute chart here. So as you can see, my next entry was a 200 share position from 5, which was a partial fill from 25, and I sold at 24. So I tried to get in here. It popped up to 35, it then pulled back. And the first 1-minute candle to make a new high ended up being a really nice setup. And that was right down here. And I hesitated on it. I didn't take that trade. I was like, hey, you've got some profit. Let's be careful. Let's not be too aggressive yet. And then look at this. It broke 420 and ripped to 479. It then pulls back, and I bought this dip right here, and that was at 467, 467, 466. So now I've got 4,500 shares, and I added at 92.94 for the break over 5. So now I've got a 6,000, 7,000 share position. It hits a high of 495. It pulls back. It taps 523. I take profit. I get out. I then get back in, and it rips up here to a high of 550. And so on SIF, I made $8,635, which by itself is fantastic. Now, I started getting aggressive after it made this big move, because this was where I was like, okay, this stock has some serious momentum. I mean, this thing is really on a tear. So that's when I, sized up and started to be a little bit more aggressive. And as you can see, I did pretty well on it. And we had a couple of trades down here, a bounce off the VWAP and a pop back up, another flush down here. And then my last trade was a long at 485, right here. Nope, sorry. Right. Oh, this is a 1 minute chart. Right here. It broke 485, break a VWAP, ripped up to 520. So that's a nice 35-cent breakout, which was really solid. So I took that trade, and that was the last trade that I took on SIF. And I actually took that with 12,000 shares. So at that point, I had already taken my trades on FWP, and I was like, all right, I'm killing it today. I knew I was killing it. And when I trade, I don't look at my P&L, but I can see that little green right there and right here, which tells me that I've made more than $10,000. Because the only way that moves over to that decimal and the plus sign moves that far over is if I've made more than 10,000. So I knew I was in really good shape. And so that's when I said, you know what? When the market's hot, when I'm setting record lap times, I'm going to put the pedal to the metal. The course is dry. The tires are warm. Let's do it. And so I stepped up on SIF on that last trade. And that ended up being a nice one. So that was SIF. SLGG, I only took one trade on. And the trade that I took, I didn't get filled for the long at 6. It ripped up and got halted at 630. I didn't chase it. It opened and tapped 650 before dropping. When it dropped, I got long at 584. And I ended up selling for a 1 penny loss. So on 2,000 or whatever it was, I lost a penny per share, about $30. So not a big deal, but it didn't really hold up super well. So after my trades on SIF, I was really focused in on this one. Pretty much it was all I was looking at for the first, 5 minutes or so. And then on the high day Momo scanner, this is the scanner that I use to help me find stocks that are squeezing up right now. And FWP hit it 819, 814, 810. Sometimes trade ideas is it's out of order. 828, 839, 835. So it hit a couple times. I saw the float said 1.85 million shares, and I pulled up the stock, and I saw that it was easy to borrow at Lightspeed. And so when I saw it was easy to borrow, I kind of thought to myself, you know what? I highly doubt the float is 1.85 million shares. Lightspeed never has low float stocks available to borrow. The float's probably wrong. So then I checked over on FinViz, which I don't use it really other than just to kind of double check the data points. I saw that the shares outstanding were 6.13, and the actual float, according to FinViz, is only 480,000 shares. So then I was like, okay, this actually is a very low float stock. Miraculous that there's shares available to borrow, but it does have a very low float. So I was watching it, but like SIF, the volume was a little on the light side. So what I ended up doing was I was watching it right here. It had a high of 880. And I said, okay, well, let's just kind of see what this does. I was like, I'm interested, but let's just kind of see what it does. And I think it hits the scanner a couple more times, which again kind of brought more attention. And so it pops right here up to 9. It actually pops from 880 to 925. So a 45-cent pop in one candle. And when that happened, I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah, no, this is legit. This stock is moving. So I decided to go ahead and get long. And I bought on the pullback right down here at $9. it hit 920, it pulled back. I got long at 9, and then I added right here over the highs. And it goes into a halt at 936. So now I'm holding 5,000 shares into a halt, and my cost basis was $9.14. Of course, buying first at 9 and then adding at whatever, 924, and again at 936. I put out an order to try to add, again, going into the halt to go up to 6,000 shares, and that order, which was at 941, did not fill. So that order didn't fill, which was kind of a bummer, but it's fine. So I was in this, and it ends up resuming and tapping $12.10. Is that not insane? So I got in this at $9.14 with 5,000 shares. And so at 9.14, so when it hits 10.14, I'm up $5,000. It hits 11.14, I'm up $10,000. It hits 12.14, I'm up $15,000. This thing hit a high of 12.72. $16,611 of profit. Now, I did trade more than that. So I took this trade. And then, which was probably more like $14,000 of profit. It then halts going down. And as it curls back up right here, I actually bought it off this dip for a tap off the volume weighted average price. So I got long on the pullback, and it rips back up to 12. Awesome. All right. Then it pulls back again. It comes back up to 12, and I got back in at around 1180 and then added at 12. Huge seller at 12. People were buying, but it just huge seller, huge seller, huge seller at 12. Look at all that. All that accumulation, people buying shares. Someone was selling at 12, a lot of shares. It broke 12. It hits 1239 and then drops back down. So that's where I stopped out, and I think that was my last trade on it. Let me just go back here. Yeah, so that was, I was watching it here, but then when it broke the VWAP, I was like, no, I'm done with it. So this was a stock straight off these scans. Now, over the last nearly 10 years of trading, I've developed these scans and customized them and programmed them to look for exactly what I think has home run potential. But ultimately, there are a lot of false alerts on the scans. There's a lot of stocks that hit the scans. I don't trade most of them. And so it can be a little bit tricky to get dialed in on when do I jump and when do I hesitate. So I think on that note, maybe what I'll do here is switch into the Warrior Pro Q&A session here for Warrior Pro students. And we'll talk a little bit more in detail about that nuance of when I jump and when I hesitate. And, again, not that I'm right 100% of the time, but that generally I'm doing pretty well. All right, and the updated P&L here. So this was yesterday, 25 trades. Accuracy in May so far, 77%. Profit loss ratio has declined a little bit and sitting before today at about $43,000 in gross profit. Add another $25,000 to that, you're at $43.53, $63, $68,000 in gross profit. And we still have, let's see, let's go back to overview, calendar, May, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 10. We still have 13 days left, 12 days left in the month. So I'm basically right here at the halfway point. We've got 12 days left, and I'm only, let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days in. So less than halfway into the month, already at 67,000 is pretty impressive. This might end up being a best month of the year. Certainly have a good shot at it here, but things also might slow down. Things were really slow on Friday, and they were really slow yesterday. But then, Monday and today were strong, and so it's, you just gotta kind of, it's probably like being a surfer. You come down to the water, and some days you got great waves and you've got some great opportunities, and other days you don't. And of course, different times a year will be better than others, and there's all those things that you can probably say. But and there's another one, nice, CREX ripping up. So momentum is hot today. And I'm probably going to be leaving a little money on the table, but I'm walking away with $25,000. It's a good day. And I have to be a little careful because sometimes following a really big green day, I can have a red day or a really big loss because I start getting a little, a little overly aggressive. So I've got to be careful, and I am going to ease off a little bit, probably Thursday and Friday, just to try to finish up the week strong and not get myself overconfident and then end up ruining my hot streak. So 30 consecutive green days, and I will be back at it first thing tomorrow morning. All right, so that's it for me. We're gonna jump over to the Warrior Pro room, and I'll see you guys in just a minute over there. We'll do some Q&A. Hey, did you know every morning I go live to stream my pre-market watch list? Subscribe to the channel, press the alert button, and you'll get the notifications. And if you want to learn more about trading, check out the links in the description. And if you have questions, post them in the comments because I personally respond to every comment posted on my channel.